Alright, so Assalamualaikum and a very good morning everyone. And today I'm going to present about the importance of the importance of context to English language. And uh, I'll discuss how context shapes the way we use language and examples from two stories, which is the lion and the mouse and the selfish giant. So these are the two stories that I've chosen, just like what I said just now. And before I begin my presentation, I'd like to explain first about what is context. Uh, Context gives meaning to what we say. The same words can have very different meanings depending on who we are talking to, where we are, and what the situation is. For example, if we say, "Can you help me?" to a friend, it sounds casual. But if we say it to a teacher or a manager, we might use a more polite tone, like, "Could you please help me?" This shows that language is not used in isolation, and it always depends on the social and cultural situation around it. Uh, in English learning, understanding context helps students to communicate appropriately, respectfully, and effectively. And that's why in my presentation today, I'll show you how these two stories, the lion and the mouse and the selfish giant, highlight the importance of interpersonal context and cultural context. So this is a video for the first story, but I don't think I have enough time, so you guys can maybe ask me if you are interested in watching it. So this is the summary of the story. Basically, a mouse saw a lion sleeping under a tree and bragged that he wasn't afraid. The lion caught the mouse but spared his life after the mouse promised he might help one day. The mouse remembered his promise. The next day, the lion was trapped in a hunter's net, and the mouse remembered his promise and gnawed through the ropes to free the lion. The lion thanked the mouse, realizing that even small creatures can be great friends and even help someone on a much higher position. And the mouse felt proud and Naga felt small. Right, so moving on to the context, which is interpersonal context. This story illustrates the interaction between characters of different statuses, which is the lion versus mouse. As we know, the lion is much more powerful and the mouse is tiny and very vulnerable. And this highlights how relationships and roles affect language use. So, the importance of interpersonal context in language use is it shows how communication changes depending on social roles, power, and relationships. And next one is learners practice adjusting tone, politeness, and language register when interacting with different people. So, as teachers, we need to teach our students how to communicate appropriately according to the people who they are talking to. It's like they can't just talk how they are talking. They can't just interact with, for example, a teacher, like how they would interact with their friends. That is inappropriate. So, as teachers, it is important that we are able to teach them how to communicate appropriately. And through interpersonal context, students can develop pragmatic competence according to Novianti in 2023, and also improves learner awareness, performance, and confidence, according to Khalid et al. 2025. So these are examples of classroom activities that we can do from this story, as well as the interpersonal context in general. So the role play activity where students can reenact dialogue between the lion and the mouse. So for example, I can take maybe Nukman as the lion and maybe Farabi as the mouse, and they can act out in front of the class to show everyone how two people of different roles can communicate with each other. And the next is it teaches speech acts such as requesting, promising, and showing gratitude. So as we all know, we can't just talk any way that we want. That would be considered rude if we are talking to specific kinds of people, like maybe royalty or someone older than us. So teacher needs to obviously uh, through this, students can learn how to appropriately address people who are older than them. And lastly, this encourages learners to explore politeness strategies. So moving on, this is the video for the second story, which is a selfish giant, but I don't think we have enough time. So the summary is, it starts with children who lost playing in the garden, in the giant's beautiful garden. When the giant returns, he chases them away and builds a wall, leaving the garden in eternal winter. When the children sneak back in, spring returns to the garden. Giant realizes his mistake, helps a small boy reach a tree, and becomes kind. He breaks down the wall and welcomes children to play forever. The little boy he loved the most mysteriously disappears, and the giant longs for him, or in other words, misses him. And years later, the boy returns with wounds on his hands and feet, and takes the giant to the paradise. So, I'm going to explain about the cultural context in the story. Now, the story emphasizes the values of kindness, sharing, and consequences of selfishness. And it also shows how language expresses cultural norms and symbolic meanings. So, the importance in language use is it shows how language reflects values, beliefs, and traditions. So, as you all know, language and culture are interconnected. We cannot simply remove them from each other, because culture reflects on how we speak. For example, Malaysians might speak a lot more polite compared to people in the West, for example. So the next one is, learners must understand that meanings are influenced by cultural associations. So for example, in the story, it mentions about the winter, and as we know, the winter is called, it's heartless, and basically in this story it brings the meaning that the giant is lonely and really sad. And this only applies to cultures that experience 4 seasons, and we in Malaysia, we don't really experience that. We only experience like hot and rainy seasons. So the next one is, it helps learners to see language as culture bound, and not just neutral words. Just like I said just now, language is interconnected with culture, and a lot of words are interconnected with culture as well. And this context and sorry also improves comprehension of figurative language. And a lot of culture has its own story, its own type of art, and in a way it has its own figurative language. And finally, this cultural context promotes empathy and global citizenship through literature. Alright, so these are examples for classroom activities. So first of all, we can discuss about symbolism in the story. Just like I said just now, winter symbolizes selfishness or lack of compassion, while spring means joy, kindness, and renewal. So in the story, as I explained earlier, the giant basically had a redemption where he allows the children to play in his garden, and the garden becomes a lot better compared to before. Now the next one is vocabulary enrichment, where we teach figurative and metaphorical expressions. These are beneficial to students because it allows them to express themselves a lot better. Now, for the group activity, students can compare how the giant's behavior with cultural proverbs from their own backgrounds. As you all know, students can come from a variety of backgrounds, and obviously they carry their own proverbs, their own figurative language, and it will be very, very unique for them to exchange their own culture, so that the students can learn how to learn together, and live together as a society. And finally, for classroom teaching, it encourages intercultural awareness, how different societies embed moral lessons in stories. So, overall, interpersonal context, it develops communicative and pragmatic competence and appropriate use of language in relationships. And second of all, it enhances role play and speaking skills, where students become confident in real world communication. For cultural context, it builds cultural competence, which is how we understand values which are expressed through language. And it encourages appreciation of literature, symbolism, and figurative speech. And also promotes intercultural understanding and empathy, making language learning a lot more holistic. So, and finally, teaching implication. By using these short stories with different contexts, it creates an authentic and meaningful learning experiences where the children can learn a lot more from just grammar or verbs or anything like that. And it also supports communicative language teaching or CLT principles by integrating linguistic, social, and cultural aspects of language. So these are my references. And finally, and does anybody has any questions?
I do.
All right, Haris, go on.
Do you think it's possible to separate language from culture? Why or why not?
Good question. Now, in my opinion, I don't think it's possible to completely separate language from culture because language is deeply connected to the values, beliefs, and traditions of people who use it. When we speak a language, we're not only sharing information, we're also expressing cultural meanings, manners, and worldviews. So, for example, the way people show politeness, make requests, or express emotions can vary across cultures, even when using the same words. So, if learners ignore culture, they might understand the words, but they will miss the real meaning behind them. And that's why in English teaching, culture and language should always be taught together to help students become not only fluent speakers, but also culturally aware communicators. So, does it answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Alright. So, that's all from me. Thank you.